At times in Asian history, circumstances have conspired to bring seemingly unlikely combatants into conflict with one another. In 1206, the young Mongol leader Temujin was declared the ruler of all the Mongols. He took the name Genghis Khan. By the time he died in 1227, Genghis Khan controlled Central Asia from the Pacific coast of Siberia to the Caspian Sea. In the west, his descendants divided the empire into 4 separate khanates after his death: the Mongolian homeland, the Empire of the Great Khan, later Yuan China, the Ilkhanate Khanate of Central Asia and Persia, and the Khanate of the Golden Horde, which would later include not just Russia, but also Hungary and Poland. In 1251, Ogedei died, and his nephew Möngke, Genghis's grandson, became the Great Khan. Möngke Khan appointed his brother Hulagu to head the southwestern horde, the Ilkhanate. He charged Hulagu with the task of conquering the remaining Islamic empires of the Middle East and North Africa. While the Mongols were busy with their ever-expanding empire, the Islamic world was fighting off Christian crusaders from Europe. The great Muslim general Saladin, Salah al-Din, conquered Egypt in 1169, founding the Ayyubid dynasty. The Mamluks were an elite corps of warrior-enslaved people, mostly from Turkic or Kurdish Central Asia, but also including some Christians from the Caucasus region of southeastern Europe. Captured and sold as young boys, they were carefully groomed for life as military men. Being a Mamluk became such an honor that some freeborn Egyptians reportedly sold their sons into enslavement so that they too could become Mamluks. By 1260, when the Mongols began to threaten Egypt, the Bahri dynasty was on its 3rd Mamluk sultan, Sayf ad-Din Qutuz. Ironically, Qutuz was Turkic, probably a Turkmen, and had become a Mamluk after he was captured and sold into enslavement by the Ilkhanate Mongols. In 1260, Hulagu sent 2 envoys to Cairo with a threatening letter for the Mamluk Sultan. It said, "To Qutuz the Mamluk, who fled to escape our swords, you should think of what happened to other countries and submit to us. You have heard how we have conquered a vast empire and have purified the earth of the disorders that tainted it. We have conquered vast areas, massacring all the people. Whither can you flee? What road will you use to escape us? Our horses are swift, our arrows sharp, our swords like thunderbolts, our hearts as hard as the mountains, our soldiers as numerous as the sand." In response, Qutuz had the 2 ambassadors sliced in half and set their heads up on the gates of Cairo for all to see. Hulagu himself received word that his brother Möngke, the Great Khan, had died. This untimely death set off a succession struggle within the Mongolian royal family. As civil strife broke out between the claimants, Hulagu took the bulk of his army north to Azerbaijan, ready to join in the succession fight if necessary. The Mongolian leader left just 20,000 troops under the command of one of his generals, Ketbuka, to hold the line in Syria and Palestine. Sensing that this was an opportunity not to be lost, Qutuz immediately gathered an army of roughly equal size and marched for Palestine, intent on crushing the Mongol threat. On September 3rd, 1260, the 2 armies met at the oasis of Ain Jalut, meaning the Eye of Goliath, or Goliath's Well, in the Jezreel Valley of Palestine. The Mongols had the advantages of self-confidence and hardier horses, but the Mamluks knew the terrain better and had larger, thus faster, steeds. The Mamluks also deployed an early form of firearm, a sort of handheld cannon, which frightened the Mongol horses. This tactic cannot have surprised the Mongol riders themselves too greatly, however, since the Chinese had been using gunpowder weapons against them for centuries. The first to advance were the Mongols, whose force also included troops from the Kingdom of Georgia and about 500 troops from the Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia, both of which had submitted to Mongol authority. Qutuz used a classic Mongol tactic against Ketbuka's troops, and they fell for it. The Mamluks sent out a small portion of their force, which then feigned retreat, drawing the Mongols into an ambush. When the Mongols carried out another heavy assault, Baibars, who it is said had laid out the overall strategy of the battle, since he had spent much time in that region earlier in his life as a fugitive, and his men feigned a final retreat to draw the Mongols into the highlands to be ambushed by the rest of the Mamluk forces. Concealed among the trees, Ketbuka, provoked by the constant fleeing, committed a grave mistake, decided to march forward with all of his troops on the trail of the fleeing Mamluks. When the Mongols reached the highlands, Mamluk warriors poured down on 3 sides, pinning the Mongols in a withering crossfire. The Mongol army fought very fiercely and very aggressively to break out. Some distance away, Qutuz watched with his private legion. When Qutuz saw the left wing of the Mamluk army almost destroyed by the desperate Mongols seeking an escape route, he threw away his combat helmet so that his warriors could recognize him and cried loudly 3 times, "O Islam! O Allah, grant your servant Qutuz a victory against these Mongols." He was seen the next moment, rushing fiercely toward the battlefield, yelling, "Wa Islama, O my Islam," urging his army to keep firm and advancing towards the weakened side, followed by his own unit. The Mongols were pushed back and fled to a vicinity of Baisan, followed by Qutuz's forces, but they managed to reorganize and to return to the battlefield, making a successful counterattack. However, the battle shifted toward the Mamluks, who now had both the geographic and psychological advantage, and some of the Mongols were eventually forced to retreat, with almost the rest of the Mongol army that had remained in the region perished. Ketbuka refused to flee in disgrace and fought on until his horse either stumbled or was shot out from under him. The Mamluks captured the Mongol commander, who warned that they could kill him if they liked. But be not deceived by this event for one moment. For when the news of my death reaches Hulagu Khan, the ocean of his wrath will boil over, and from Azerbaijan to the gates of Egypt will quake with the hooves of Mongol horses. Qutuz then ordered Ketbuka beheaded. Sultan Qutuz himself did not survive to return to Cairo in triumph. On the way home, he was assassinated by a group of conspirators led by one of his generals, Baibars. The Mamluks suffered heavy losses in the Battle of Ain Jalut, but nearly the entire Mongol contingent was destroyed. This battle was a severe blow to the confidence and reputation of the hordes, which had never suffered such a defeat. Suddenly, they did not seem invincible. Hulagu returned to Syria in 1262, intent on avenging Ketbuka. However, Berka Khan of the Golden Horde had converted to Islam and formed an alliance against his uncle Hulagu. He attacked Hulagu's forces, promising revenge for the sacking of Baghdad